Welcome to the Pipeline Podcast. Today is October 22nd, and we got a pretty off the cuff conspiracy, even though I would even argue it's not a conspiracy, but we're going to be going over like digital IDs. We're going to take it to the extreme and how it goes into the World Economic Forum, goes into carbon lockdowns, carbon taxes, social credit scores, all that kind of stuff. So the main part of the story today is this it's like a digital ID scheme from the UK that people in the UK are like protesting right now. So if you haven't heard of this, it's like a card on your phone that just confirms your ID. And they say, "Oh, it'll make it so illegals can't work in the country because they won't have this digital ID." That's how they try to sell it to the people, but everyone kind of knows what it could be used for and how big of a privacy invasion it is. And so that's why we're seeing these protests. We'll get into that a little bit later. We got to back up first. So this post is from the World Economic Forum from 6 years ago, and it's like 8 predictions for the world in 2030. And then if you're unfamiliar with the World Economic Forum, let me pull up a little bit of background actually.
Everyone knows about the former executive chairman Klaus Schwab, the one that comes out with all of the "you will eat the bugs and be happy, you will live in the pod."
Yeah, exactly. Here, I got him pulled up. He's like from Germany. He's the head, even though he's not in complete control of the World Economic Forum. He's the founder and he's like on the board. Other people include like Chairman Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock. And then it's basically just a lot of other people that are very
Powerful and rich.
yeah, I guess to put it simply, powerful and rich, have like worked for or created like large companies, large corporations. It's overrepresented by European or Western oligarchs. It's kind of like a forum like that.
Okay,
That
you classist.
Yeah, exactly. It is like a classist way to say it, but the people that run this are not like union workers or like government officials. It is like a private organization.
It's a non-government
International,
organization.
yeah, an NGO.
Non-governmental organization.
Exactly. Just a little bit of background. I'm sure most people are kind of familiar with this, at least most people that watch our videos. But we do have to start here. So, 8 predictions for the world in 2030. Let's check this out. And that's where this phrase, "you will own nothing and be happy," comes from. I don't know if anyone's familiar, but we got to talk about this. So, this is their first prediction: you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And basically, if you need anything, you just go to Amazon and a little drone ships it to you and you rent it. You rent your home, you rent your car, even. I don't know if you've heard of that concept, but like instead of like buying a Tesla, you just rent a Tesla and it basically drives away when you don't need it. It's almost like a timeshare for your car. It's in my opinion, it's a scam. That's kind of part of this whole concept.
Everything needs to move to a subscription deal in order to get perpetual money. Why
Yeah, you
create
don't
something?
own it.
Especially as we get into the future where we have more technological advances that makes light bulbs last 100 years, or you only ever need to buy one TV because it'll never break. Those things are not conducive with business. People don't want you to buy one thing and not have to buy it anymore. So how do you change that? You make a subscription service.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's just the first prediction out of these 8. We'll go through the rest of them, but this is the one that you will hear like this is the one I've heard the most, honestly, that people are like, this is a little concerning. Next up, the US won't be the world's leading superpower. This is bad, right? If the US currently is the world's leading superpower, we don't need to change that. Everything's fine. And also, for the World Economic Forum to even be like saying this, it surprises me with the amount of influence that they have in like a lot of European countries. And like we are seeing like this digital ID that the UK is pushing is basically like a policy that the World Economic Forum is pushing. It's one
What they
step
want,
towards this. The US is no longer the world's leading superpower.
Well, and what's the reason behind that? Because there won't be superpowers competing with each other anymore. The whole concept is to make one world government so you can min-max the whole world under one currency, under one rule. All the trade that happens within one country. There's no more different countries.
Right. Let's check out the next one. So yeah, a handful of countries will dominate. So it won't be like one major superpower or maybe even one or two major superpowers. It'll be like just the more
You
developed countries kind of lead things and
the
pick.
people who have the guns and the money that can kill people or bankrupt them if they don't listen to them.
Yeah, and I guess in like a real world scenario of that might be a select like NATO committee. Like I'm sure there is a
Yeah,
NATO
like the UN
committee.
Security Council right
Security
now.
Council, exactly. It'd be like the UN Security Council. Whatever countries are part of that, it's kind of probably a good real world example of what that would
But
look like.
more authoritarian because you probably won't have a say in what they do.
No, and they'll be able to tell you what to do. And if you don't do it, your social credit score will go down, which is linked to your digital ID. You won't be able to go to work or you'll get fined or something.
Be labeled as an undesirable or unfit for normal everyday life, or
Yeah.
you'll be ostracized in the community. That's the whole point. Or you'll be
Yeah.
sent to a re-education camp.
This talks about 3D printing organs, which we won't transplant organs, we'll print new ones instead. You don't need those first two predictions for this to be possible. So in the future, I mean, I believe we might already be able to do it, print
We've already
organs.
done this. Yeah, we've already grown organs in vitro right now. We can grow single-celled single organs in like a test tube by themselves for people. We've already done that a couple of years ago, I believe.
Yeah, and for this to be like a thing that's very commonplace, the US can still be the leading superpower and you can still own things. So like this one, sure, we can have this and not the first two, is what I'm trying to say. You'll eat much less meat. This again with the second one, the US not being the world's leading superpower. I feel like most Americans would disagree with this. They don't want this. So it's like we need to eat less meat because growing meat produces a lot of methane, which is like a greenhouse gas. So that's why they're saying this. They want it to be more of like a luxury, like a sometimes snack rather than a staple. I don't want this. I don't support this. So just be aware that is something the World Economic Forum does support. That's what they say. An occasional treat, not a staple. You could almost make the argument that we're seeing this already a little bit today. I mean, just during the New York City mayoral debate, I was talking about beef prices when they were going over like grocery prices. Beef prices have gone up. There's already like an effect where people are like, oh, I'll just get chicken or something. So you could make the argument we're already seeing this today.
My biggest issue is that this slideshow is just extremely contradictory. Why would we be able to grow and 3D print organs that we put
Organs.
in human bodies, but we can't clone or 3D print meat?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll go into it a little bit more too, but I kind of think people argue like the factory farms like produce a lot of these like greenhouse gases. There's got to be a way to like still eat meat and produce less like methane. I'm sure there's a way to do it without just eating less meat. They're predicting by 2030, a billion people will be displaced by climate change. So we're almost to 2030. We're 6 years in from these predictions, more than halfway. Let's see if we're more than halfway there with the climate change displacement. Try to fact check this.
I still remember when Al Gore said that if we don't change something, we would be underwater in like 2011.
I just remember, like in the early 2000s, saying like, if we don't do something now within like 20 years, it's going to be too
Yeah.
late. And I kind of feel like it's not too late and I got lied to.
Yeah, it's like it was a fear-mongering tactic.
Yep.
It's that you give up freedom so that you can combat climate change, a mysterious ghost that we just can't seem to nail down.
So it looks like an average of 21 million people are displaced every year. So when they made this prediction,
There's a lot more numbers to go.
yeah,
And what does this Google say? That 216 million people would be forced out of their own countries or move within their own countries by
by
2050?
2050,
That seems like a very different number than what we're getting
that
20
seems a little
years
more realistic.
later than what they say.
But it looks like about 20 to 30 million people get displaced each year. They made this in 2030. It would be 12 years after they made this, so like 12 times like 30 million. I guess that's correct.
12
100 million
times
or a couple 100 million. I don't think it would be a billion.
$1 billion.
If we're going off the biggest estimate by Google, 2022, it was 32 million people were displaced. If we say it was 32 million every year since they made this video until 2030, it would be about 384 million. So their prediction, I mean, it could come true. If in the next 5 years we see a lot more people be displaced, it could hit a billion. But at the current rate, it's not quite going to get there. It's always good to like actually look at the numbers. We'll have to wait and see.
But remember, they're telling you this, and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and Oprah are all buying houses on the beach, on the coasts. Obama lives in Martha's Vineyard. These are all places that should be underwater soon, yet we have all these elites and rich people moving to them.
Yeah, and they're taking their private jets everywhere, telling us don't eat steak too often.
Well, the issue that I have is that they're telling you that all these places are going to be underwater or climate change is going to displace these people. Then why are all these billionaires buying those spots? Why are they all buying this beachfront property?
Here's another fun one that we're definitely going to get into after this, or we're going to get into in the video. We'll have to do a better job at welcoming and integrating refugees. So this is basically saying, hey, you remember all those Middle Eastern countries we blew up? We might have to let them in because of climate change. So you should support all these Muslims coming into the UK, and we should do a better job at integrating them. But we've seen... because that's what the World Economic Forum wants. And let me show you something about...
I'm an American, and I'm told if I ever go out of the country or go to a different country, I have to conform to their laws and their cultural norms. Why do places that assimilate people have to then pick up their cultural stuff? Why don't they assimilate to the culture?
Yeah, and so let's see, according to this policy that we should do a better job welcoming and integrating refugees, let's see how that's been going. This is Ireland yesterday, after a Muslim illegal migrant that was ordered to leave the country didn't and ended up raping a 10-year-old girl. This is what the aftermath looked like.
I will say the grooming gangs exist.
And look at that hotel. This is where the migrant that was ordered to leave the country, but wasn't. He just stayed in the country. This is where he was living.
And this is a huge issue for European countries. They have large amounts of immigration.
This is riot police protecting the migrant that did the R word to the 10-year-old girl. So this is how integrating the refugees is going. Does it look like it's working?
The grooming gangs, that's also a thing.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of older migrants that are grooming younger girls.
It's a huge issue in the UK.
That not a lot of people realize is that all these migrants are caused from the U.S. bombing the Middle East for the past 20-something years.
Exactly, and it's not just the U.S., but it is mostly the U.S.
UK bombed a little bit in the beginning.
Yeah, and Russia attacked Iraq. That kind of contributes as well, even though it was a longer time ago. But it's, there's always conflict going on in the Middle East.
Well, I mean, you can even see at the beginning of the War on Terror, all of the bombings in the UK, like the famous UK tube bombing or whatever.
Yeah, they had a really big issue for a while there. I forgot about that.
I'm not saying refugees bring problems, but the refugees from where they're coming from, they don't believe that they need to assimilate to other people's cultures.
Well, and here's the thing. If we just spent less on military, we would save the environment a little bit because they're one of the biggest polluters, and we wouldn't have to deal with these refugees because we're not blowing up their countries. That would be nice, though. Carbon tax. So polluters will have to pay to emit a carbon tax. So, like, if you think about it, this one does have issues, even though I understand where they're coming from. It's like carbon neutrality. So, like, if you pollute, you have to, like, pay a tax so it offsets the pollution. But that's not, like, a real solution to climate change. You can't just pay money and have the pollution go away. All that money would need to go into reliable things that like neutralize the pollutant. I mean, that's just not what's going to happen. The government's just going to take that tax and like do stuff with it. And it also will negatively impact developed countries more than it will undeveloped countries, for better or worse. And there's a lot more to it, but we're not going to go into this too much. People think a carbon tax is a good thing. You could make an argument against that.
The currently developing countries, like places in South America or in Africa, remember, we all got to a civilized point where our infrastructure is upgraded and we were able to destroy the atmosphere, in quotation marks, with our pollutants. But now, since we got there, we can't allow other countries to do the same thing. So we're literally gatekeeping like technology and industrialization.
Do you really think China, they might say they're going to follow along with the carbon tax, but do you really think that they're going to implement it throughout the
No.
country? I don't think so at all. Yeah. And they're not the only one.
They emit 12 gigatons of greenhouse gases or carbon a year, and that's double allegedly what we do. So do you really think that they're just going to be like, oh, we're going to stop everything? They also are a lot bigger of a population. They have over 3 to 4 times the population that the United States has. So it makes sense that they would have double the amount of emissions. If you want to make any actual substantial change, you would need to involve them as well.
You need to involve everyone. And I have a conspiracy theory about climate change in China. So before Trump was elected, we saw a lot of articles about how heavily China was like polluting and like how many like coal factories were being built. And then after we saw a weird change after Trump got elected and started going hard on like green energy, like kind of trying to do away with it and promote like drill baby drill. My Reddit feed went from those China's building coal plant articles to like China is implementing stricter greenhouse energy regulations and China is building more renewable energy. Was it because of Trump, or am I just getting that push to make China seem like they're less polluting than they actually are, to make it look like what Trump's doing is worse? Like, I don't even know.
There is that, but there's also the fact that Reddit owns China. So, I mean, when you have a user base of people...
Chinese investors own a lot of Reddit.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Chinese investors, which we have seen that Chinese people are very loyal to the CCP.
Like it's always hard to get real information from places like China or even Russia.
Right, because half of it's just propaganda.
Propaganda, yeah, it could be. Or just like their government institutions aren't giving like legitimate numbers. But they might not even be able to collect legitimate numbers.
What I'm saying is, what we could be hearing could just be U.S., whoever pays the U.S., not saying Israel. Whoever owns the U.S. could be wanting to push a certain narrative, and, the people that own China could be wanting to push a different one. There's no difference between the propagandists, it's just who's pushing it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then fossil fuels, carbon tax, and also an emissions carbon tax. So like if you drill oil, you pay a tax. If you burn the oil, you pay a tax. So you get like double taxed on it, which like it just is a stupid solution in my opinion. And this is a fun one. So you could be preparing to go to Mars. So if you watched our Big Beautiful Bill episode where we broke it down, inside the Big Beautiful Bill is a plan to go to Mars, I believe by 2030.
Going to the Mars by 2030. Hopefully they'll have better special effects when they give us the video this time.
Right? Okay, I'm not exactly sure on the date, but in the Big Beautiful Bill, there is a funding plan for a mission to Mars. It was about $10 billion that was used to like finance this, but it doesn't quite say exactly when that's going to happen. And I don't want to look into it too much today. But anyway, this is happening. So this prediction looks like it's going to be correct. But again, we can do this. Look at this. We're doing this prediction, but people still own things. All the predictions don't need to be true for this to be true. I just want to say that. And then here's another concerning one. Western values will have been tested to the breaking point. So it's basically saying like, US isn't going to be the superpower Western values will have broken or will be breaking by this point. And
Well,
it's like, well, we don't need to do that. What's like that's kind of crazy to even say.
I mean, I feel like that's what's been going on, right?
That's what
Isn't
people are trying to go along. I mean,
don't
just look
you
at Charlie
say that
Kirk.
Western?
Like he's like the prime example of Western values and just got murdered, and we just saw like so many people celebrating it. It was crazy.
Well, it's not even that. I mean,
It's
it's
just an
the
example.
declining birth rate.
Hmm.
The 1 in 5 Gen Z kids now are not heterosexual. There's a huge divide between races. Like the media has been playing up race wars after Occupy Wall Street 2012, anti-man versus women thing. We are tearing our selves apart at the seams on all these cultural issues. And in my opinion, the Western values have been tested and have been in decline for the past decade.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we could. Why would you follow this model here by the WEF if it's going to break Western values? I kind of support these protesters that are protesting the digital ID in UK and protesting this crime wave of migrants in Ireland, because that's the kind of stuff that does test Western values, which people don't like. And then it says checks and balances that underpin our democracies must not be forgotten. So it's like, I guess it's saying Western values, but not democratic Western values. Like keep it a democracy, I think. I mean, that one is also kind of vague. You can make a conspiracy from it. And then we have one more video. So it's called The Great Reset, and this is by the royal family. It was the Prince of Wales Sustainable Markets Initiative in partnership with the World Economic Forum. They launched a global initiative, the Great Reset. That just goes to show how much influence the World Economic Forum has if they're partnering with the Prince of Wales. Like there are countries that support all of these things, all these predictions we just saw here by the World Economic Forum. There are countries that push this. They're probably influenced heavily by like the people on the World Economic Forum board, stuff like that. And so when people talk about the Great Reset and say like, oh, it's a conspiracy theory, like it's literally not, even though people might take it to the extreme. But anyway, let's watch this video. It's like less than 2 minutes.
We have an incredible opportunity to create entirely new sustainable industries, investing in nature as the true engine of our economy.
The current global crisis has disrupted every aspect of our lives, but it has also presented us with an extraordinary opportunity, a chance to reset and accelerate efforts to improve the state of our world.
So yeah, like that's all good, right? Like nothing crazy from that. Reset is kind of a weird way to say it, but to like try to push for like a healthier world, like sure, like that's a great idea. Let's do that.
Changing our current trajectory will require bold and imaginative action, together with determination and decisive leadership. In order to secure our future and to prosper, we need to evolve our economic model, putting people and planet at the heart of global value creation. If there is one critical lesson we have to learn from this crisis, we need to put nature at the heart of how we operate.
Nature at the heart of how we operate could go against like what he just said previously. Like we need to protect people.
Evolve our economic model, putting people and planet at the heart of global value creation.
So yeah, people at the heart of global value creation. And then what else does he say after?
We have to learn from this crisis. We need to put nature at the heart of how we operate.
Or is it nature at the heart of how we operate? To me, it does sound hard to say. It's like, how do you do both? Put people and nature at the heart? I feel like you do have to make a choice, and like people need to eat, which, just growing crops, like it's going to pollute the environment. Think of like the factory farms. You do need some of these natural resources just so people can like have iPhones and stuff. So it's interesting.
So I think that if you listen carefully, he does say slightly different things. And what I'm
It is
getting from
slightly
this,
different.
and what I'm getting from it is that he's saying we're going to use the people as workers to harvest their products. That's what it sounds like he's saying to me.
Sure, yeah.
Putting people and planet at the heart of global value creation.
Global
and
value
putting
creation.
people at the heart of global value creation. To me,
Yeah,
that
what is
sounds like
value
we're going.
creation? Is that
It sounds
products?
like they're going to be workers. Yep, they're going to harvest their respective natural resource for the greater good of society.
The
That's
greater
what it sounds
good.
Crisis. We need to put nature at the heart of how we operate. We are on the verge of catalytic breakthroughs that will alter our view of what is possible and profitable within.
Right, which is what is possible and profitable. Like, what's the point of putting profits in there? It's suspicious. It's
And
'cause
so, in my opinion, this is very telling of the fact of this ties into like UFOs, because we have special technology that we haven't released to the people yet. All those UAPs and UFOs are probably military weapons or crafts that are new technologies. So we have new technologies that will probably change everything about life.
Yeah, it could be. I just feel like that was like the World Economic Forum is like very corporate controlled and like
Yeah.
prioritizes those over like, in my opinion, like normal workers or like union people, like blue collar people. So I think it was like an appeal to like corporate board members.
In my opinion, the World Economic Forum is a bunch of rich people who are now deciding how they want to rule the world, and that there's too many breeders and feeders
And
sucking
too
up
many
all the
people
good
own
air and using
stuff.
up all the gas. Yep.
Yeah,
That's
they want to own
exactly it.
everything.
Yep, that's what they want.
Of a sustainable future. We need nothing short of a paradigm shift, one that inspires action at
Yeah, so it's talking about a revolution with the
calling for
revolutionary
revolution.
Yeah, it is.
levels and pace. At revolutionary levels and pace. We simply cannot waste any more time. The only limit is our willingness to act. And the time to act is now.
Yeah, it's saying we need a great revolution to bring in the Great Reset, which like just ties in. We'll get into it at the end of the video.
Oh, this was put out by the monarchy in the UK.
Prince of Wales in partnership with the World Economic Forum.
Oh, so that was the Prince of Wales saying that. I see.
And that was 5 years ago.
Yep, 2020 is when the World Economic Forum came on a lot of people's minds because of COVID.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and COVID, we'll probably talk about COVID a little bit too with these digital IDs.
That's where the idea was introduced. That's when we all
Yeah.
got what's it called, pre-programmed or whatever.
Yeah, and I've heard some conspiracies about like they'll use like for COVID tracking if your phone's Bluetooth pinged another phone, that's how they would know to like tell that person to like isolate.
Yeah,
But I don't know if that's true. That's what I heard, yeah. And that ties into this digital ID stuff because the digital IDs on your phone.
I mean, how does that eventually down the line, you get a ping saying the person that you're talking to is like an undesirable and you could lose social credit score by talking to them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then, you know, your phone can always be listening to you and stuff.
It already is.
It can just, you know, what if it's just listening to you and something you say, it pings your score or puts you on like a shadow ban or something.
Didn't Apple just get fined or something because Siri was spying on you?
I don't know, but I'm sure stuff like that happens all the time. Where it's like, oh, this company was selling like millions of people's data, or they got hacked and didn't disclose it. Like stuff like that happens like a lot.
Cost doing business.
Yeah, exactly. Your information is valuable to companies. But anyway, we covered this at the beginning of the video, but we're going to go through it a little more now. So it was published September 2025, and it was an explanation on the digital ID scheme by the Department of Science, Innovation, and Technology for the government of the UK. So it's not in the US, it's the UK. And it's supposed to make it easier for people to use vital government services. And they are rolling it out. It is a real thing. And you'll be able to use it to apply for government and private sector services, like proving your identity and improving access to welfare and other benefits. And applying for free childcare is something you can do with it, is how they're trying to sell it to us. And it will also be required, the digital ID will be required to work. So your work will check your digital ID to make it clear that you didn't come here illegally. And so they're saying, we're going to implement this because it'll make it easier for you to get free childcare, and it will make it so none of these illegal immigrants will be able to work. So that's why you should have a digital ID. But normal people that aren't stupid will say, no, this digital ID is like an invasion of our privacy. It kind of it goes down a rabbit hole that could become a huge problem. People that come here illegally can probably still get around this somehow. Like
that's the first step into going into a dystopian society.
It's a slippery slope.
Well, it's just like that's how you get to V for Vendetta or Ready Player One or whatever.
1984.
Sure.
Yeah. And there's a lot of other examples of this kind of stuff happening in the UK, which is super interesting, even though we haven't talked about it a lot on the channel. So by the end of this parliament, it's expected to be fully rolled out. I don't exactly know when parliament ends, but soon, within a couple of years here, I don't know, at the most. Yeah, employers are required to check it to prove your right to work. So it's basically going to force everyone to get it if you want to get a job.
Kind of like how Biden put out that executive order where you had to get the COVID shot if you wanted to continue working.
Yeah, or like if you wanted to go to the bar, you needed your little vaccine ID.
Yep.
It's kind of similar and could be used. It's the same thing. If you don't have your little digital ID, you can't work, can't apply for a job.
And what's to stop them from doing that? What's to stop them from taking more or extending that?
Yeah, once this is implemented, they could add more restrictions. And we'll get into it. Like, don't eat too much beef because it'll eat up your carbon score. We'll get into that in a little bit here. For now, it looks like it's only going to include your name, date of birth, nationality, residency status, and a photo. But they could always add to it. And then, so this is just a video. People don't like this. There are protests against it. And what I'm interested to know is, what is the crossover between people that support these protesters, people that don't want the digital ID, and people that support the protesters that are protesting the illegal migration, like crime uptick in Ireland? Are these the same people, or are these two different kinds of protesters? Because for us, I support these protesters and I support these protesters. What's the crossover there? I don't know. Because the UK government is selling this digital ID as like, hey, it's going to curb illegal immigration, but I just think people aren't stupid and realize that no, it probably won't help that much. But who knows? Ireland could be a lot different, though, like political atmosphere. I'm not familiar with all this stuff.
Well,
this was in London.
I will say that the UK protests more than America.
Yeah.
They do a lot more things. Which is probably why they have free healthcare.
Recently we had the No King's Day protest that seemed to be pretty peaceful. That was good.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what were they actually protesting, though?
No kings.
Yeah, but we don't have a king.
Right.
Like, that's the issue. You know what we do have, though? We still have lobbyists that are paying off our congressmen that are directly opposed to the people who are fucking marching. So why don't you goddamn protest? Those are the goddamn kings right there. Those are the kings. Holy shit.
Yeah, we still don't have like term limits on like most high up government positions.
How about you're just not allowed? Large organizations are just not allowed to lobby government officials. How about that?
Right. Yeah, but what would happen to the people that work in that industry? What would they do?
Oh, they would have to play by the rules that everyone else has to in free market capitalism.
Oh,
Sorry.
they have to get a normal job. Oh, darn. This is just an article on these protests. Oh, it's called the Brit card. You need your Brit card if you want to work in the UK.
Boy, man, you got a license for that?
Exactly. And they're saying the article is saying, or at least protesters, if you accept the digital ID today, you're accepting a social credit score tomorrow. Once scanned, never free. So it is like an invasion of privacy, and like they think it's like government overreach, which we saw a lot of people talking about this kind of stuff during COVID.
Well, I mean, you can even see what happened in the United States here. We voted to give away freedoms because of 9/11, and they have done nothing but push more and more and more. No,
Yep.
they don't ever give it back to you once you sign it away or vote for it. They only take more.
About 3 million people in the UK have signed a petition against it, which is a lot. Yeah, and they say no one should be forced to register with a state controlled ID system, and it's a step towards mass surveillance and digital control, which, like, yeah, I agree with that. I see that the same way. Okay, so yeah, it basically, the article is saying, I don't know if this article is like biased or anything. I'm not familiar with the source or even the UK that much, but it looks like most of these protesters are protesting it because it's like a privacy concern, which I totally understand. Here we want to talk about how they could add to this digital ID. So they could add things like personal carbon allowances, which is something people have been talking about. So they might say like, hey, you're limited to using 20 kilograms of CO2 per day, and that's tracked by your digital ID. So like say it just knows like if you're driving, it might tick that up and be like, oh, you used some CO2 because you like spent gas. Or when you go and use your tap to pay to like buy a sandwich, you could say, oh, that's a steak sandwich, that's like 8 kilograms of CO2 or something, and you get like a certain allotment of it. Is people, that's kind of, people have been talking about actually implementing this. Literally, this is a page that talks about it. They're not saying they should implement it, but they're asking for a 4-week consumer trial, and this is being developed by the Carbon Trust, the Coca-Cola company. And so this is something that people want to implement in the UK and use your digital ID to keep track of. So this
Now I wonder, who would that account for? Does that mean everyone, or does that mean just the breeders and the feeders and not the rich people?
Well,
Do
that's
you
the
get to
thing.
pay
I bet if you go over your 20 kilograms, you just have to pay a fine. And like if you're rich, you don't care about any kind of score or fines.
Yeah, that's true. If you're rich, you don't really need a positive social credit score.
No, like do billionaires care about their credit score?
No,
They
no.
don't. Yeah, it's like a poor person problem, or just a normal person problem, I guess. This is something that could be implemented onto the digital ID, another way to take away more of your freedom. Here's a picture of like some kind of packaging representing this already. I believe it was in the UK, but it says like carbon score. This is 8.1% of your daily dietary carbon allowance. You can buy, no one right now is going to stop you from buying as many of these as you want, but they're saying like, hey, in the future, you might see this sticker, and if you go over 100% in the day, like your social credit score could go down, or you could pay a fine, like stuff like that.
The other thing that you really need to understand about this is that that's not a sticker. That is written on the
It's
packaging.
in the packaging, yeah.
Those people had to create a new packaging to put that sticker on there. Why would they do that unless they were forced to? Because that is just
And
more money on ink.
we were both looking at a source earlier that showed that it is forcing them to do this in the UK.
And so why would they force you to do that if it means nothing?
Right. And I would say it's because behind closed doors, they've already agreed they're going to add this to the digital ID to promote the World Economic Forum's agenda. That's what I would say. That's the conspiracy.
I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah. Next up, I want to talk about WorldCoin. So this is Sam Altman's idea for type of like blockchain coin called WorldCoin, where it scans everybody's retina.
Sounds like in the future they won't steal your wallet, they will cut out your eyes.
Maybe. It's a cryptocurrency project. It uses your retina as a biometric verification to like store your coin. So yeah, that coin is linked to your retina.
Which means that that biometric data is in a database somewhere on a server.
Yes, and if we're going all out conspiracy on this. This is my take on what's going to happen. The UK and all the one world government will implement Sam Altman's WorldCoin and force everyone to scan their retina, and your digital ID will be linked to that. It's kind of what I think is going to happen.
That's one of the major pillars of the Great Reset, is there being a one world government, which would entail one world currency, one currency for everyone.
Yeah, and then with mass surveillance and your WorldCoin social credit score digital ID, I mean, they'll be able to track everything you do and decide if you're allowed to be able to travel to certain places in the world. And so you could use this to implement like an open borders type thing. Like if you have a good social credit score, if you don't jaywalk or commit crimes or talk to undesirables. Yeah, if you stay away from the undesirables and you're a good slave for Amazon and Jeff Bezos and you don't jaywalk or commit crimes, you'll be able to travel to better places like London rather than be stuck in like Africa or something. That's kind of my theory on it, my conspiracy theory on it. Just like WePay or WeChat in China, where it's like one app that everyone kind of pays with. It's like the Cash App of China.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know about that.
And I think that might be the same app that people say is like the social credit score. Like it's like a one-stop shop app for China where you can do everything like call people, send money, buy stuff. Oh, and then here, this isn't that app, but it's China's national model for a social credit system. So it looks like right now it's being used in just one city, and at least it was implemented in 2019. I don't know if they're still doing it, but there's 389 rules. 124 rules will give you a good behavior, and then there's 265 rules for bad behavior that punish you.
That seems a little skewed.
Absolutely. It does. Yeah. So I believe it's like what I was saying earlier. Like if you jaywalk or commit a crime, it will punish your score. And then I don't know what the good behaviors are. Like if you pay your fare on the train, if you get a nice streak going, maybe you get good behavior points. I don't really know. If you spend money, that would be funny. It's like go to Starbucks this week, we'll give you points. I don't really know.
Stimulate that economy, you good little consumer.
Yeah, did you pay your utilities on time? Like, here's a couple points. I don't know exactly what it would be. And then it says a lot of the offenses already fall under established laws, so like committing crimes, basically.
But that's a nightmare. How does only 66% of the rules that they have on there are actually
already implemented
considered laws?
Well, it just means 33% of them aren't considered laws. And so they're just making up rules.
Yeah, and the next sentence says that the other 33% that we're talking about expands government authority into moral and social domains beyond the law, which is terrifying.
Which is basically groupthink. It's telling you what you should do to be a good citizen. And that's just whatever they want you to do. They get to make up whatever they want. They're in control of that.
Protesting today, that's one of that 33% bad things that is not a law, but
exactly. Yeah, think of this was implemented in the United States right now. If you went to one of those No Kings protests, your social credit score would go down. You know, in Trump's America. No. Well, maybe. I guess it depends who controls it, but I'm imagining if it was implemented, the US government would control it, and Trump would be like, give them all 10 points off, take 10 points away. Something like that, like civil disobedience, your score goes down. So this could be something that we see implemented in all of China. Right now it isn't. And so if you do hear people talking about how there's a social credit score in China, that's not necessarily true. There is, but it's not every Chinese citizen has to or has this. It's only about 1 million people, I believe. Right
Which
now.
1 million is a lot of people, but in the grand scheme of things in China, I believe China's population is close to 2 billion at this point.
Yeah, so it's not everyone at all, but they're testing it. They're working on it. They're working out the kinks before they push it to everyone.
Sorry, it is 1.4 billion, close to 1.5 billion.
Yeah. And next up, we have a 3-minute clip. This is Alex Jones. He's talking about a lot of the stuff we hit on today. And this was from like a week or two ago. He went on Tucker Carlson's podcast and kind of talked about it. So people, it has been in the news lately. We got Alex Jones going over a lot of the stuff we've been talking about. We got these digital IDs coming to the UK and the protest from 3 days ago. So it's relevant. Let's talk about it. He goes into like globalist, World Economic Forum, digital ID, depopulation, and carbon lockdowns.
The globalists admit that they want a post-industrial world. That's John Kerry said last year, we got to cut off half the farming or people will starve. That's what causes starvation, obviously. And they want to cut the resources off so they can manage and control people. That's why in the Netherlands and in Ireland and in Sri Lanka, all over, they're cutting off massive amounts of the farming, taking some of the best farming land ever and saying, sorry, your cows pass gas, it's bad for the earth. That is deliberate sabotage.
I just want to say, just to say people can't have cows or to tax them, that might not be the best solution. So if you ever want to look into, I believe it's like regenerative farming. If you do like everything organic, the cows produce a lot less methane. So maybe the problem is these factory farms and also things like all these like steroids and chemicals that we're using in our crops, in our like cattle and other like farm animals. And if we did things more naturally, you could still have your steak. It's just that's not how the world's set up right now. You would have to change it. But to just find these farms might not be the best solution.
Two points. One, the methane comes from the cows dying, but it also comes from their shit.
Yeah, they farted.
That's the problem, is that you have to take care of feces. But to add, there's this hilarious game for the Xbox 360 called Dead Rising, where it's a dude trapped in a mall with zombies. And the whole plot of the story is that the world eats too much meat. And that it does give you it does ask a good question. And it says, do you have any idea how much meat is consumed in a day? And so there is a lot. If you look up how much meat McDonald's goes through in a day, it's like 6 million pounds or something like that.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. So the issue is also being able to make enough meat to then have it have the same yield, but not as bad for the world or whatever. So I don't know about any of that, but I will say, to give a counter argument, we do pump these livestock full of chemicals and hormones in order for them to develop and grow bigger and faster. And so, one, that's probably not good for us humans, and two, it does probably produce a lot of at least methane or animal feces.
Yeah,
so
or other like runoff waste and stuff to add to like.
And so that is something to add. I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but the current way that we're doing it, there is some issues with it.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like currently, the only way we're feeding the world is with all these pesticides and factory farms. And so the solution is to not just find these factory farms. We got to find a better solution than that, because if you just find them and they have to pay these fines and like limit the number of like beef they can produce, that doesn't solve the problem. So you need to do something else.
Sabotage of the world economy to cause a collapse, then the banksters can loan us more money, bring in a new cashless society, social credit score. That is the end game plan. And they talk about carbon lockdowns for the earth, where you'll be told when you can leave your house. During carbon lockdowns, you'll be told when you can leave your 15-minute city. This is a very totalitarian hellscape, dystopia, sci-fi vision they have. And Trump is 95%, I would say, in opposition to it, even with his limited understanding. He by limited, I mean he's smart about the economy, but doesn't understand it's deliberate. And he goes, oh, they're really dumb. These are the worst ideas I ever heard. Is that why they're all unified, decades getting them in place? Is that why the big banks and corporations are exempt? No, it's feudalism. We don't have resources. We don't have rights. They all have the rights. That is the purest form of economic control. It's the oldest form of government. It's been the most common form of government in world history. And the UN and the globalists say we're bringing back feudalism. Neo-feudalistic capitalism is what they call it.
Neo-feudalistic capitalism is kind of what they're going for with all this stuff. That's a good way to put it. That is putting it to the extreme. I mean, if you look at all the things we just went over today, I mean, they blatantly said like and called and predicted like the fall of the U.S. as a global superpower and Western values, and that we should be more integrating to these criminal migrants in the UK, at least. So he's not wrong to say these things, although it is like the most extreme way to put it. But I don't really disagree.
I don't disagree either. In fact, if you go back to the beginning of of the live stream when we talked about the World Economic Forum, the first thing that pops up on the slideshow is that you will you'll rent everything and be happy, or you'll own nothing and be happy. And so that's what they do to control you, is that you have to continually do what they say, listen to what they want you to do, or else you won't be able to drive anywhere. You won't be able to get food. You won't be able to have your utilities because you won't own these things. You won't already have these things. You'll have to continually do what they tell you to get the things that you need to live. And so that's how they plan on controlling you, is through some capitalistic, feudalist society. Like,
Yeah,
hey, we're going to give you
neo-feudalist.
this house. We're giving you this 15-minute city. You get to live there, but now you have to do exactly what we tell you. You have to work when we tell you. You have to stay in your house when we tell you.
You got to
eat
ride a
what we tell
bike,
you
not
to do.
drive a car, because the car will eat up your carbon tax. So like ride your bike in your 15-minute city. Eat beef like once a week, because if you eat beef every day, you'll go over your like carbon tax allotment.
In my opinion, it's basically saying that we have too much freedom. Freedom right now as poor people, as people who aren't the rich and powerful people. You have too much freedom to be able to do whatever you want, and you don't deserve those freedoms. And you're only allowed to do what we tell you to do because we're smarter than you, because we have more money than you,
Yeah,
and more power than
these
you. That's
elites
basically
don't want
what it
you
is.
to own your own stuff, because that means they can't control you.
Exactly.
But really, it's just slavery. And that's what we're opposing. And that's what the relaunch of the West is about. That's what Elon Musk understands. And that's why this is a do or die existential threat to everybody. People should just get on board and get hardcore, or be absolute feudal slaves if you're lucky. You realize 3 years ago, the UN made the World Economic Forum co-equal to its governing body and its councils. And you understand, if you actually read their writings, the future isn't human. People are bad. Families are bad. We're going to have these AI gods that take over. I mean, it is just the wildest thing that Lex Luthor in a comic book couldn't come up with. This is beyond supervillain stuff. This is real super demon stuff. And you have to identify the attack you're under and that it's deliberate. Then you have to mobilize and get good legislatures and governors and others elected. Populists are getting elected all over the world. People are really waking up to this. And we have.
Yeah, so like a populist would be someone who's like against like the World Economic Forum, because they would argue that if you want to simp to nature, you're not going to be able to simp to nature and increase the population. The World Economic Forum would say, let's lower the birth rate so that we contribute less pollution. And that's like an anti-populist position.
Where BlackRock tried to come in and say, we're not going to have any investment in your state if you don't get rid of fossil fuels. And then Texas sued Kim Paxton and said, this is racketeering. This is illegal. They won the court cases. It is. Because Larry Fink says this is about control, and we're going to control you. And they control us by managing our money. Well, now a bunch of states are pulling their pension funds from BlackRock. And now Larry Fink is singing a different tune, at least publicly, and they've pulled some of their DEI and some of the ESG stuff, which is the corporate governance. When you wonder why, whether you're in Australia, Germany, the US, or Canada, it's the same policies, the same programs, the same drag queen story times, the same take a knee during the national anthem. All of this comes out of them literally trying to demoralize us, because if we have a free, open society, people around the world are going to want that. And you can't have a control group where there's some free, prosperous Western nations, everybody else slaves under BlackRock and the globalists. That's why you've got to take down the West so there's nowhere to run.
I don't necessarily agree with that last part, but I think he means like Western values, at least. Take down Western values.
And so the whole concept is that ESG it's an ESG score. Companies have ESG scores now. It's environmental, social, and governance performance. And so they all are. That's why they change all of their stuff to Pride Month and things like that. Is that they all have a sort of social credit score right now in the form of their ESG scores.
Right? Yeah.
And
Did
so
Trump get rid of that? I heard a little bit about that.
I'm not exactly sure.
But I know I think that a lot of companies still do it. But I don't know. I think it was being pushed by like the Biden administration, but now, yeah, like he said, a lot of companies are some companies are going away from that a little bit.
Well, a lot of North American companies. It's a lot of European companies right now, because as we see, they're already introducing digital IDs, and the World Economic Forum is over there in Davos. So
yeah,
yeah, and so they've already tried to do this to the major companies like Microsoft, Nvidia. These companies do, like Adobe. These companies still have all these things. They are still top-rated ESG companies.
That's some super fun stuff. I'm glad we got to go over it today.
Yeah, it's just the digital IDs. It's really it could be a tipping point or the precipice of the whole concept of the Great Reset, if that's actually a thing. But I mean, we see daily carbon allotment printed on UK packaging. It's very telling that there's something going to happen relating to social credit scores or digital IDs and trying to start some kind of push towards a one world government.
Yeah, this is how you
Whether
do
that
it with the digital IDs and a carbon
and then
tax.
yep, and then having companies, you have the controllers of most of the commerce embracing ESG scores. And so when you start at the top and you have all the rich and powerful people start to do these things, and then we see them being implemented slowly through incrementalism, um, it makes what Alex Jones said kind of seem like it's true,
Yeah, I
right? It
mean,
seems like
yeah, they're
actually
definitely
happening.
pushing for it.
How else could you interpret this, or how else would one interpret this?
If we missed anything, definitely leave a comment and let us know. I mean, we could have gone on and on for hours about this, but main part is the digital ID is coming. It's being implemented right now in the UK. And that really is like a major step towards this great reset, as the World Economic Forum states. We didn't make that up. The Great Reset is not a conspiracy theory. This actually comes from them.
One of the people that owns pretty much every company in the world, BlackRock, they're an investment firm. They have money in pretty much every large company. He is also part of the Economic Forum.
Yeah,
So
and they're the
the
ones that are like buying
economic
up a lot of houses so they can force people to just rent it instead of buy it in the US. They own like a lot of property. So like that kind of goes into the you'll own nothing and be happy. I mean, they are BlackRock supports all these things.
Yep. I mean, and you can look at that back at the beginning of 2020. BlackRock, Blackstone started, instead of buying apartment complexes, they started buying up single family homes,
Yeah.
the whole neighborhood. They would often pay $50 to $80,000 above asking price to artificially inflate the whole neighborhood's price as well. Because if half the houses sell for an extra $60,000, that means that that's how much they're worth, is that extra $60,000.
Yeah, and it will
And you can
encourage other people to sell in the neighborhood so they can
and
buy it
anyone
more.
and anyone can do this, but it takes a lot of money, something that these investment firms have a lot of, whether it's
Yeah.
liquid capital or just capital or just loans based on collateral based on their portfolios. This the housing shortage, what we're seeing with the whole climate change and pushing Biden's presidency, the whole push for electronic vehicles completely by like 2035, something like that. It's all pointing towards this whole
Great
sentiment
reset.
that sentiment that the World Economic Forum put out, which is the Great Reset. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Definitely subscribe and check out our other videos. We've talked about similar topics in the past.
And we live stream every Wednesday at 4 EST.
Again, yeah, subscribe so you can catch us on the channel when we go live next. And have a good night.